When people want to learn a new language, they usually sign up for a language course, right? This is one of the obvious solutions that many of us think about. We find a language school or a teacher and we sign up for regular classes, and we expect that by attending those classes, we will learn Spanish or French or whatever language you are trying to learn. Maybe it's also happened to you. Maybe you sign up for a course like that. Maybe you attended it for several months or even years. But at the end, you were quite probably disappointed by the results because you got some basics in the language, but you never really got to a fluent level. You didn't feel like you could use the language in practice, you could talk to anyone, and you just probably felt disappointed by the results. Now, what's the reason? Many people think that this is because they don't have a talent to learn a language. They're not good enough. They don't have the language gene or whatever word you think about. But I believe the problem is somewhere completely else. Now, we expect the course to teach us that language, and usually we think that it is enough for us to just simply attend that course. But this is not the case. It's extremely important to have contact with the language, to learn the language in some way in between the lessons. If you think of a course, a language course that usually takes place, let's say twice a week, maybe you have an hour and a half with a teacher in a class full of people, and then you don't do anything else in between the lessons. So let's say you attend a course on Monday in the evening and then on Wednesday in the evening, and from Wednesday till Monday you don't do anything else. You naturally forget most of what you covered in the lesson. And this is not because you don't have a special talent for languages. This is because this is how our head works. Everybody's head, not just yours. And that's why it's extremely important to be in touch with the language in one way or another in between those lessons, ideally every day in small steps. And this solution is also much cheaper if you decide to spend some time with the language by yourself, because this is the time when you don't pay anyone to spend the time with you while you are learning the language. I asked a friend of mine, Vlado Škultety, a well-known Slovak polyglot, how long it takes him to learn a language. And he told me that his extreme time where he managed to learn a language was 3 months. But when I asked him how he did it, it was Russian that he was learning, he said he spent 6 to 8 hours a day with the language for 3 months. This is an incredibly intensive learning period, which I believe not everyone can do because it's really, really intensive. But it just proves that in order to learn a language, even in 3 months, you really need to be intense in your learning, right? I counted it and it comes to about 500 hours of language content, of language contact, effective language contact, in order to achieve a level where you are fluent and you can use the language and you feel comfortable, the comfortable fluency level or a B2 level. Now, if you want to achieve that by simply attending a class, it will take you years, maybe 5 years if you do it twice a week, because that's very little time that you spend with the language per week, right? So if you want to do it in a faster way, you don't want to spend years learning a language, and you also want to do it cheaper, you don't want to pay someone for every single hour that they spend with you learning the language, then the simple solution here is that you spend some time learning the language by yourself. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with language mentoring. I try to help people learn languages by themselves. It doesn't matter whether they attend a course or they don't attend any course at all. For everyone out there, it's extremely important to learn by yourself as well. Now, what does it mean to learn a language? You don't need to take a textbook from the course and go through the grammar exercises or something. Let's leave that to the course. What you can do is watch series, you can listen to podcasts, you can read books, you can read bilingual books where you have the text translated into your language on the other side of the paper. And all these things are fun, I would say. They are very pleasant activities. It's not like, oh, now I'm learning, I'm serious, sitting over this textbook for hours trying to cram it into my memory. It's something that you would probably do in your language just for fun, like reading books, watching series, right? But this contact is extremely important for you to make some improvement in your language, because when you think about it, the way we learn words is that we encounter them often enough for us to remember them. This is how children learn languages as well. When you watch a small child, just think about how often they heard the word, mama or eat or hungry or something like that. And once they heard it often enough, that's when they learn it and they can use it, right? Well, we learn languages exactly in the same way. And that is why it's very important for you to encounter many words in the language as often as you can, because if you just do it once or twice a week, it's simply not enough and you cannot remember those words. And basically, when you just go to the language classes and do nothing else in between, you're starting all over again. So you learn a few words, but then you forget them in a few days. Then you try to learn them again, you forget them again, and you feel like a failure, and it's just very demotivating to learn in this way. That's why I'm a big fan of learning more actively, more intensely, but in a shorter time overall, because if you do it more frequently, then it works much better. So whether you are attending a course or not, I really, really recommend to you to have some contact with the language in between those lessons. It doesn't matter what you do, just make sure you stay in touch with the language.